Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone in Facebook and YouTube world. Ross here, friendly product specialist, with another Learning with Line 6. And we're going to do wet dry stuff tonight. Let's get all the sound stuff out of the way, make sure everything's cool. So this is my voice. As always, it's not great, but it's the only one I've got. And this is what the guitar sounds like. Are strong today, so yeah. Hopefully the levels are cool. Let me know in the comments, and we will hopefully crack on, and I'll fill awkwardly for a minute until someone says yay, turn this up, turn this down, whatever. Buckster is in the house, and Eid is in the house as well. Levels seem good to me. Cheers, man. So wet dry. This is something that so many players utilize, and it's a very simple concept. And you'll find this in anyone from Steve Lukather and Steve Vai through to more modern players, Josh Smith, Chris Buck. And the concept is very, very simple. You have a dry guitar sound, and you get your effects, and you send that to a separate amp, and that's your wet sound. So there's a ton of different ways you can do this. I'm going to show you my preferred way, and we'll have a play around with some of the routing and show you another way you can do it. And then a cool trick where you can actually, if you don't have an amp with, say, an effects loop, or you want to do some clever routing stuff, which you can with Helix, then there's another thing. So we'll go through that as well. Hopefully I'm going to remember everything that I'm going to show you, but here we go. So what does wet dry look like? So like I said, this is my personal preferred signal path. So we've got the guitar coming in. I'm using HX Stomp tonight, and you can do everything that you need to do with that. So I've got the guitar coming in. I'm hitting the good old hair apparent, excuse me, or air apparent even. On the distortion mode, normal gain setting, these settings, fairly simple. And we're using the, if you don't follow us on Instagram, every week we're doing Amp of the Week. This week it is the solo amp. I did the clean channel. We've got Tony doing the crunch channel, probably Nick doing the OD or the lead OD. So go and follow us on Instagram, and you will see some wonderful sound samples for that. So that's the settings for my solo clean, and that is for the gab. And that sounds really nice and sounds like obviously my normal amp of choice would be the Cali Texas, but amp of the week is the solo, so we've gone with that tonight. And you'll see the split here, and this basically is my dry signal. So I'm going out the main mono left on this, and then splitting the signal to go through some effects. So I've got a dual pitch, I've got a chorus, I've got a big old reverb, and I've got a delay. These are all in stereo, and that is going out stereo from the effects send of HX Stomp. I'm going to keep flicking between screens here. Buxter says no clean tone. Thank you very kindly. It's a great amp for clean. You should check it out because it rules. So that's what this kind of looks like. What the air apparent's doing is just giving me some dirt, obviously. So then my kind of two sounds, clean sound and dirty sound. The air apparent's just set up as basically kind of a second channel for the solo clean. So what is wet dry? It's like I said, so we've got a dry signal. My dry guitar signal is always there, and it's just that. And with the signal splitting off, that could go to another amp, or in this particular case, I'm going all direct. So guitar's coming in, hitting the amp and cab. I'm going out the main to one channel of the PA, and then my effects go to two other channels. And what this enables me to do is basically just add effects and blend them in as I see fit. So on pretty much every effect, as far as kind of modulations and pitch shifters and delays and reverbs go, you'll have a mix knob. It's a similar kind of thing, but what this system enables you to do is get a much more kind of prominent effect, but it stays out of the way of the guitar. Because like I say, your dry signal is always there. And you'll see more modern kind of stompbox delays and reverbs will have this analog dry through. DL4 Mark II has that. So your effect kind of stays out of the way of the guitar, but it's still there and prominent, and you can just blend in as little or as much as you need. With this, you're actually leaving it, or you can leave it to the front of house engineer if you have the luxury of having one, and depending on the room, he can make your sound wetter or drier. So that's kind of the basic premise and what the benefits are. So like I said, this is kind of the signal path. This is how I would do it, but I can show you another way shortly, and let's see what it sounds like. Just skip back. We'll go to the comments. Sweet. So let's start with some reverb. So just to kind of show you, if I put that up there for a second, so dry signal. If I add this reverb with the current settings, actually take that mix up quite a lot more, so up to 90%. So you're really getting the full effect of the reverb, but that's kind of killing my natural guitar sound. Pulling it into this parallel path here, I still get my natural guitar sound. But you can hear the guitar again, but this massive wash of reverb sort of sitting behind the guitar sound, if that makes sense. Same with the delay. It does that. And you can bump up the level with this a little bit just to kind of give those effects a bit more juice. So your natural guitar sound that you've spent however long kind of crafting and getting just right, with this method you're not kind of making it a big wash of effects and losing all those dynamics or that natural sound. I kind of like this generally around the 50%, and then the delay kind of up some. Give that a little bit more. Get a bit of dirt on that. So like I said, it's still quite a natural guitar sound. Turn the effects off. It sounds great, and if you're listening in stereo, then you're going to get the big kind of ping pong stuff. Adding something else to that, so let's go with a pitch shifter. Got the dual pitch on there. I've got a 7th above and a 5th below, and that goes out. So it really is kind of like 3 guitars playing, because I've got my drive signal, so that's just always there, and then I've got a 7th above and a 5th below running in stereo, and it's killer. So what I'll do, if I turn these effects back on, we'll get rid of that for a minute. Put the chorus on to make it super wide. If I actually turn the master volume down, so what you're going to hear now is just the effect. Blend the guitar back in. Clipping a little bit in the room. And the same deal. I mean, I'll just turn the effects off, but if I take the main effects section down, I kind of compensate your wet level here. So if you don't have the luxury of 3 channels on the desk, if I just switch this to mono, you can kind of do a similar thing with just a wet dry. So you just got 2 channels. Turn the effects on. So that's just coming out the right side or going out the left. Don't even need to send it to stereo. To mono even. Left or right. So that's kind of that's how I would normally do a wet dry. Let's say you're running into 2 amps. You got 2 combos or 2 stacks or whatever behind you. So we're now going to pretend that, let's get rid of this. Let's start from scratch. So we want 2 amps. Let's do a deluxe there. Put these there. And let's have that there. Let's go with the SX30. That's going to be okay. Clean these up a wee bit. And it's kind of the same deal, but you want to go stereo effects and like that. And just put them in front of 1 amp. Still put them off after the amp, obviously, but same kind of deal. Dry signal. My main kind of dry sound is the SX30, and then this is my wet amp. And if you wanted to do that with actual amps, you just do that. So this is going out now. Guitar is dry, that's going to 1 amp, and then put all of the wet effects that you want into there, and then stuff that you want going to both amps in this section here. Does that make sense? Hopefully so. And you can see kind of wiring diagrams and all sorts out there for this, and it works an absolute treat. So something else that's kind of pretty cool with this, especially if you've got Helix floor or Helix rack with a mic input, you can do it with any of the other units. You just need to kind of mess around with the cables slightly, is this. So if we clear this, boom, right. So what we want to do, let's get that amp back. Right. So imagine for a second that this is I've got an old vintage amp. There's no effects loop. There's no nothing. And what I want to do is actually mic that up and still get the benefits of wet dry. So this, I've seen Eric Johnson do this. He goes straight into sort of really old master volume amps, puts a mic in front of it, feeds that through effects, and then has that coming back via a desk into kind of powered monitors. So this is cool. So if we go to this, so we won't say return left for this, on Helix floor or rack, you would use the mic input. So what's happening now, I've lost my pick. Now, I'm not set up to do this, so I ran out of cables, sorry. But the theory is basically guitar comes in, imagine we're going out of there to your regular amp, and then here, so that could be the send, for example. And then here, we're actually going to mic the amp up and bring the mic back into Stomp XL, Helix Floor, Helix Rack, whatever. And then that's going to feed these effects, and that's going to go out to powered wedges or, again, PA. So that's another nice little trick that you can do. You can kind of do this via 4-cable method as well, depending on your amp's effects loop, because not all effects loops are created equal. So you might get some issues. You might need to kind of have a return in there. If you've got an amp with a slave out, then you can absolutely do it with that. There are certain amps which have kind of a preamp out to drive power amps or effects racks and whatnot. So you can absolutely do the same kind of thing with that. But that is basically, that's basically it. The premise is simple. It's just getting the routing right. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. Like I said, this particular way is the way I prefer to do it, just because I get lots more control. With this, I can assign this level to an expression pedal, so I can kind of set and forget all of these effects, and then actually blend in myself how much of the wet I want. That will affect front of house, but most of us don't have the luxury of front of house engineers, so we have to do it all of ourselves. And that's kind of it. The effects don't really matter. I've used stereo. Again, you could just use mono if you're limited on channels, or you're struggling. Oh, and I've got rid of that. Press the wrong button. Apologies. There you go. There you go. And it really is that simple, but I urge you to try it. If you have kind of a home setup with studio monitors or headphones, and you do this, you'll hear that you're just going to get that kind of dry. Again, I'll just demonstrate real quick. If I turn these effects off, put some filth on because it's fun. So the dry sound is that. So you can hear the fundamental basic tone is not changing at all. I'm just adding these effects to the sound. It's not a dissimilar idea, so I get a lot of comments why I put things in a parallel path. It's kind of a similar idea, but just as a mono signal. This is kind of an elaboration of that, and just gives you a lot more versatility, and getting the massive reverbs and delays in there without them swamping your sound or getting in the way. Hopefully I've explained that kind of okay, because there's no comments, no questions. So there we go. What I'll do, I will put this preset on custom tone, so it's a good starting point. I know a lot of you out there are just going direct. So like I said, with Stomp, how I've got this rigged up, I'm just going guitar in. The main out is just going out mono to my interface, and then I've got another 2 channels coming out the stereo left and right send, and there we go. So Buckster might have missed this, but do you set the effects to 100% on the wet path? No, you absolutely can. I've got the delay kind of quite high up, just because I think it sounds a little bit better. The reverb's at 50%, but some of it will depend on the order, and some of it will depend on the effect. If it's a particularly prominent or weird effect, you might want it 100%, you might want it 50, 30, whatever, but that's the mix control. You can absolutely kind of mess around and just tailor it in for what you want. So it's kind of a suck it and see thing. But yeah, some you can have 100%, some you might want a little bit less. But yeah, a lot of that will depend again on the mix. So what I would probably say is set your effects as loud or as prominent as you want them, and then kind of dial that in on the desk or an expression pedal, whichever works for you, really. And there we go. That's fairly quick, fairly simple. Like I say, it's worth trying. If you got headphones, then you'll absolutely hear it really well on there, just because it's that you're getting that much more isolation. The wet dry thing, just pan left and right, your effects section left, and your dry amp right, and you'll hear what a lot of guys these days are doing. And again, that's just really easy to then blend in on a mixer. Really simple, fairly quick one today, but just something that I've seen a few people kind of trying to do and a few people asking for recently. So there we go. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for tuning in. I hope everyone is safe and well. I forgot to mention the guitar, so switched it up. I'm using my Pacifica Mike Stern model tonight. It's marvelous. Go and check those out as well. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you same time, same place next week for more of this fun. And if you've got any suggestions, throw them in the comments, send us an email, whatever you like, and we'll try and get around to it. Thank you so much. Take care of yourselves. See you again.